I never understood why people called marriage beautiful. For me, it felt like silence inside a locked house. My name is Ethan Cole, and I am married to Victoria Hart, the Ice Queen CO everyone talks about. People thought I was lucky. They said I had everything. But they never saw her eyes when she looked at me. Cold. Empty. Like I was just a shadow in her house. Victoria, can we talk? No answer. I stood near the kitchen. I made dinner for you. She walked past me like I was air. Victoria, just 5 minutes. She stopped, but didn't turn. I don't have time, Ethan. Work matters more. I forced a smile. I understand. She left. I started doing small things for her. Cooking breakfast, waiting late nights, even fixing her coffee just the way she liked. But nothing changed. One evening, I asked her again, "Am I even important to you?" She looked at her phone. "Don't start this again." I stepped closer. "Just answer me." She finally looked at me. "You are not part of my priorities, Ethan." That sentence hit harder than anything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice in my head. "You are not part of my priorities." I laughed quietly, but it hurt. I walked to the living room and saw her office light still on. She was working again. I stood outside the door and listened. She was on a call. "Ethan? He is just a mistake I tolerate." My hands froze. I stepped back slowly. My heart felt heavy. Mistake. That word stayed with me. I went back to my room. She never noticed I heard anything. Next morning, she acted normal. "Make sure breakfast is ready." I nodded. "Sure." She left without looking at me. I stood there alone and realized something. I was not her husband. Not even her friend. Just someone living in her space. And that was the moment something inside me broke quietly. I whispered to myself, "I can't keep doing this." I went to kitchen again. "Victoria?" I called. No answer. "I think we need to talk properly." She appeared at door. "I told you I'm busy. This is important." She sighed. "Say it fast." "I don't feel like your husband anymore." She frowned slightly. And that's all you say?" "I don't have emotions for this conversation." I clenched my fists. "For years I tried to be enough for you." She crossed arms. "You were never part of my world, Ethan. Then why marry me?" She paused. "Just a second." "Because it was convenient." That word destroyed me more than anything. I laughed, but it sounded broken. Convenient. I was convenient. I walked closer. "Did I ever mean anything to you?" She looked away. "Not in the way you think." "Then what was I?" Silence. "Answer me, Victoria." She finally spoke. A responsibility I never wanted. That was it. I stepped back. I smiled faintly. "Okay." She looked confused. "Okay. Yeah. I understand now." I turned away. She said nothing. But I heard her voice one last time. "Ethan." I didn't respond. I went to my room and packed nothing. Just sat. I thought about everything I did for her. Meals, waiting, silence, loyalty. None of it mattered. I spoke softly. "I'm done chasing someone who never looks back." I closed my eyes. For the first time, I felt free, but also empty. I sat near window. Rain started outside. I watched lights of city. I whispered, "This is where it ends." Phone vibrated. Her name on screen. Victoria Hart. I didn't pick up. It kept ringing. I finally turned it off. She came home late. I heard heels. "Are you still awake?" she asked. I didn't answer immediately. "Yes." "You should sleep." I was waiting for nothing. She paused. "Don't start drama." "I'm not starting anything." Silence again. I stood. "Victoria, I need one honest answer." She sighed. "What now? Did you ever respect me?" She looked at me for a long time. "No." Short answer. Sharp. I nodded slowly. "Thank you for honesty." She frowned. "That's it. That's enough." I walked toward door. She called behind me. "Ethan, where are you going?" I stopped but didn't turn. "Somewhere you won't follow." "Is this some kind of punishment?" "No. It's freedom." I opened door. Cold air hit my face. For first time, I didn't feel trapped. I stepped outside. Night was quiet. I didn't look back. I heard her voice faintly, but I kept walking. Every step felt lighter. Not because I won, but because I stopped losing myself. I whispered last time, "I was never yours." And I walked away from everything. I stopped at street corner. Wind was cold. My phone still off. For the first time, silence didn't hurt. It healed. I remembered her face one last time. Not with love, but with distance. I smiled. "Goodbye, Victoria." And I meant it. No tears. No turning back. Only forward. I kept walking until city lights faded behind me. Every sound disappeared, and I felt like I was finally breathing again. No more pretending, no more waiting for love that never came. Just me and the road ahead. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I was free. That was my new life starting. I didn't regret leaving anymore. The pain that once controlled me was gone. I realized love should never feel like begging. I chose myself over a cold marriage. And even if the future is unknown, I finally feel like I belong to myself. I am free now, truly myself. I used to think loneliness was my only problem. I was wrong. My real problem was trusting the wrong person. Liam Brooks was my best friend since college. The kind of guy who always smiled, always listened, always said the right words. "Ethan, you're overthinking again," Liam said one evening while we sat outside a small cafe. I sighed. It's hard not to overthink when your own wife treats you like a stranger. Liam laughed softly. Victoria Hart is not a normal woman. You knew that before marrying her. I looked at him. So what am I supposed to do? Just accept it. He leaned back in his chair. Sometimes acceptance is better than love. I frowned. That sounds like giving up. He smiled. Or being smart. I didn't like that answer, but I still trusted him. Because Liam was always there when I needed someone. Or at least I thought he was. Days passed the same way. Victoria stayed cold. Liam stayed supportive. But something started changing slowly. Every time I mentioned Victoria, Liam's expression stayed too calm. Too controlled. One night, I asked him directly, "Do you ever think she actually cares about anything or anyone?" Liam took a sip of coffee. "Victoria Hart cares about power, Ethan. Not people." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's what I feel too." He leaned forward slightly. "Then why are you still trying?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know anymore. Another evening, I noticed something strange. "Liam, why were you at Hart Corporation today?" He smiled instantly. "Business networking. You know I consult sometimes." I stared at him. "You didn't tell me." He laughed lightly. "Do I need permission now?" "No, just surprised." He patted my shoulder. "Relax. I'm just expanding my work." But something about his smile felt different that day. Still, I ignored it. Because I trusted him more than my doubts. That was my mistake. One night at home, Victoria came back even later than usual. I tried speaking. "Dinner is ready." She didn't even look at me. "I already ate." I stepped closer. "You've been avoiding me more than usual." She removed her coat slowly. "I'm busy, Ethan. That's all you ever say." She stopped. "What do you want from me?" "Just a normal conversation." She gave a cold laugh. "We are not normal people." I watched her walk away. Something felt heavier in her silence. Next day, I met Liam again. "You look tired," he said. I nodded. "Things at home are getting worse." Liam sighed. "Maybe you should stop expecting change." I frowned. "You're starting to sound like her." He smiled quickly. "I'm just being realistic." But his eyes didn't match his words. That night, I came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I walked inside slowly. "Victoria?" I called. No answer. Then I heard voices from her office. One voice was hers. The other was Liam's. I froze. I moved closer silently. "I told you, this is risky," Liam's voice said. Victoria replied coldly. "Ethan won't understand anything anyway." My heart stopped for a second. I pushed the door slightly open. Liam was sitting across from Victoria. Both of them stopped instantly when I appeared. Silence hit the room like a wall. "What is this?" I asked slowly. Victoria stood up first. "You're home early." Liam stood too fast. "Ethan, it's not what it looks like." I stared at him. "Then explain it." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Victoria spoke instead. "We were discussing business." I laughed once. "At my house. In your private office? Together?" Liam stepped forward. "Just listen." I raised my hand. "No. You listen." Both of them went silent again. I looked at Liam. "You've been visiting her company a lot." Liam shook his head. "It's work-related." I turned to Victoria. "And you never told me that my best friend is suddenly your business partner?" Victoria's eyes stayed cold. "I don't discuss every detail of my work life with you." That sentence hurt more than I expected. I looked between them. Something didn't feel right. But I still didn't see the full picture. Not yet. I stepped back slowly. "Fine." Liam exhaled. "Ethan, don't make this weird." I looked at him sharply. "Weird? You sitting here with my wife in secret feels normal to you." Victoria interrupted. "Enough." Her voice was sharp. I looked at her. For a moment, I expected something. Anything. But there was nothing. Just cold control. I turned away. "Okay." Liam called after me. "Ethan, wait." I didn't stop. I walked out of the office. My hands were shaking slightly, but I didn't want them to see it. Behind me, I heard silence again. Heavy silence. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying their faces. Too calm. Too prepared. Something was wrong. But I kept telling myself, Liam is my friend. Victoria is just Victoria. Still, doubt started growing inside me. Small, but real. I whispered to myself in the dark. Why did they stop talking the moment I entered? No answer. Only silence again. And for the first time, I didn't feel safe in my own life anymore. But I still didn't know. This was only the beginning of betrayal I hadn't even discovered yet. I didn't plan to find the truth that night. I just wanted a glass of water. But sometimes truth doesn't wait for permission. I walked into Victoria's office because the light was still on. The house was too quiet again. That silence had started feeling like warning signs. Victoria? I called. No answer. I stepped closer to her desk. Just forgot some papers, I whispered to myself. That's when I saw it. A folder open on the table. My name wasn't on it. Not anywhere. I frowned and leaned in. Then I saw something worse. Hart Brooks Strategic Partnership Agreement. My hand froze. Liam Brooks. I whispered, what is this? I flipped the page slowly. Victoria Hart and Liam Brooks. Business alliance. Expansion plans. Shared control decisions. No mention of me. Not even as a husband. I stepped back slightly. This can't be real. My chest felt tight. I heard footsteps. I turned fast. Victoria stood at the door. Her face didn't change. You're looking at something you shouldn't, she said calmly. I held the papers up. Explain this. She walked inside slowly. Put it down. No, my voice cracked slightly. Tell me why my best friend is signing deals with my wife behind my back. She didn't react. That silence was worse than anger. I stepped closer. Victoria, talk to me. She sighed. You're making this dramatic. Dramatic? I laughed once. I found legal documents between you and Liam. She placed her bag down. So? I stared at her. So? That's it. She looked at me coldly. It's business. I shook my head. You didn't even tell me. She walked past me. I don't need permission for my work. I followed her. This is not just work. He was in our house. She stopped. Slowly turned. Our house, she repeated. My voice lowered. Yes, our house. She stared at me for a moment, then said something I will never forget. There is no our in anything I own. I felt my breath stop. I whispered, Victoria. She continued. This marriage was never mine to begin with. My heart dropped. What are you saying? She finally looked at me fully. Ethan, you were never part of my world. I stepped back. Then why did you marry me? She didn't hesitate. My father, Daniel Hart, forced it for board stability. That name hit harder than anything. Daniel Hart. Her father. I shook my head. So I was just a deal? She answered coldly. Yes. One word. That's all it took to break everything. I laughed softly, but it wasn't real. Years. I gave you years of my life. She didn't respond. I stepped closer again. Did I ever mean anything to you? Silence. Victoria, answer me. She looked away slightly. That small movement destroyed me more than words. I repeated, did you ever love me? She finally spoke. No. No hesitation. No emotion. Just truth. I felt like my legs gave up slightly. I whispered, not even once. She turned away. You should leave. I froze. Leave? Yes. I stared at her back. You're throwing me away like this? She didn't turn. You were never holding anything to begin with. My throat tightened. I asked one last time. Was Liam part of this too? She paused. That pause answered everything. My voice dropped. So that's why he was here. She said nothing. I nodded slowly. Okay. I stepped back. Okay. She finally spoke again, but colder. Don't make this harder than it is. I laughed once. Harder? Victoria, you destroyed everything without even blinking. She didn't reply. I looked at the papers on the desk again. My name still missing. Like I never existed. I whispered, I see it now. She finally looked at me. For what it's worth, she started. I cut her off. Don't. Silence again. I turned toward the door. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. I stayed in a marriage you already ended. I heard her voice behind me. Ethan. I stopped but didn't turn. This is not a negotiation. I walked out. No one stopped me. Outside, rain had started. Cold drops hit my face. I stood there for a moment. Then I laughed quietly. So this is it. I walked down the steps slowly. Every step felt lighter, but my chest felt empty. I sat on the curb outside the house. Rain got heavier. I whispered, I fought for nothing. My phone buzzed. Liam. I didn't answer. It buzzed again. Still didn't answer. I looked at the house one last time. Lights were still on. Victoria's shadow moved inside. But it didn't matter anymore. Because I wasn't inside that life anymore. I leaned back in the rain, closed my eyes, and finally accepted it. I was never her husband. Just a mistake she tolerated. And that night, I stopped trying to fix something that was already broken long before me. I didn't cry that night. I didn't even feel like shouting anymore. Something inside me just shut down, like a door closing forever. Victoria's words kept repeating in my head, but I didn't react anymore. You were never part of my world. Strangely, it didn't hurt the same way now. It just felt final. I sat alone in my room and whispered, so this is what ending feels like. No answer. Only silence again. But this time, I didn't fight it. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Victoria was already gone. As always, I made tea and sat near the window. I said to myself, I need to leave this place properly. Not in anger, not in emotion. Just clean. Simple. Done. I took my phone and searched for a lawyer. That's when I found the name. James Carter. I called him immediately. A calm voice answered. James Carter speaking. I said, I need help separating myself from a marriage. A pause. Then he replied, come to my office. No questions. No judgment. Just business. That's what I needed. Later that day, I met him. He looked at me carefully. You look like someone who already made his decision, James said. I nodded. I just need it done quietly. He leaned back. Divorce cases involving high-level families like Hart are never quiet. I said, then make it invisible. He studied me for a moment. All right, tell me everything. And I did. Not emotionally. Just facts. Victoria Hart. Marriage arrangement. No emotional connection. Business separation. No children. No shared personal ties except legal documents. James wrote everything down. Then he said, you're sure about this? I nodded. Yes. He asked, no second thoughts? I answered honestly. I already left emotionally. This is just paperwork catching up. He looked at me for a moment. Then closed the file. Then I'll handle it. I stood up. Keep it confidential. He nodded. It will be. As I walked out, I felt something strange. Not pain. Not relief. Just distance. Like I was watching my own life from far away. Days passed. I started removing myself slowly. Bank accounts. Shared contacts. Old connections tied to Victoria's world. Piece by piece. Quietly. No one noticed. Or maybe they just didn't care. One afternoon, I overheard something on the news. Hart Corporation faces unexpected financial instability. I stopped walking. I turned up the volume. Sources suggest internal partnerships may be weakening. My heart stayed calm. Too calm. I whispered, so it's starting. That night, I searched more. Another name kept appearing. Marcus Lane. I saw his company rising fast, targeting Hart Corporation aggressively. I leaned back and muttered, so she's finally facing pressure. But I didn't feel happy. Or sad. Just neutral. Like it had nothing to do with me anymore. Because it didn't. I was already gone inside. A few days later, Liam called me. I didn't pick up at first. He called again. Finally, I answered. His voice was different. Ethan, we need to talk. I said calmly, about what? He hesitated. Things are getting complicated at Hart Corporation. I replied, that's not my problem anymore. Silence on the line. Then he said, you're still her husband legally. I laughed once. Not for long. His tone sharpened. What does that mean? I said, nothing that concerns you. He lowered his voice. Don't do anything stupid. I paused, then said slowly, funny. You're the last person who should give me advice. He went quiet. I ended the call. I put my phone down and whispered. Even his voice feels fake now. That was the moment I realized something important. I wasn't angry anymore. Not at Victoria. Not at Liam. Not at anyone. I just didn't belong there anymore. The next morning, James Carter called me. It's moving forward, he said. I asked how fast. He replied, faster than expected. Something is already breaking their internal structure. I nodded. Good. He paused. You don't sound emotional about this. I said, because I'm not in it anymore. He understood. No more delays then. None, I replied. After the call, I sat alone again. I looked at my reflection in the window. A man I barely recognized. I said quietly, this version of me is leaving. That evening, I saw Victoria return home early. For once, she walked past me without speaking. But I noticed something. Tension, stress, pressure she couldn't hide. She stopped near the stairs. "Ethan." I turned slightly. "Yes." She hesitated. "Nothing." Then walked away. That was the first time I saw cracks in her control. But I didn't feel anything. Not even satisfaction. Just distance again. Later, I packed a small bag. Nothing important. Just essentials. I looked around the room one last time. "This place was never mine," I whispered. I walked out quietly. No drama. No goodbye. No confrontation. Just silence. Outside, night air felt different. Lighter. I stood there for a moment and said to myself, I'm not running away. I'm just leaving something that never included me. And for the first time, I didn't look back at the house. Not even once. I didn't feel involved anymore. Not really. It was like watching someone else's life collapse from a distance. But I was still inside it for now. The first time I heard about it, I was sitting alone in the living room. The news channel was on low volume. Heart Corporation facing sudden investor withdrawal. I paused my glass. Again, I whispered. The reporter continued. Multiple deals have failed within the last 2 weeks. I leaned back and muttered. So it's starting to fall. I didn't smile. I didn't react. I just listened. That's when Victoria walked in. She looked different. Tired. Controlled, but strained. She dropped her bag. Turn that off, she said. I looked at her. It's just news. She replied sharply. I said turn it off. I switched it off. Silence filled the room. I said quietly. Things are getting worse, huh? She stared at me. You don't need to involve yourself in my company issues. I nodded. I'm not involved anymore anyway. She narrowed her eyes slightly. What does that mean? I didn't answer. Because explaining didn't matter anymore. Later that evening, I saw Liam again. He arrived without knocking properly. Like he owned the place. Ethan, he said casually, long time. I replied, not really. He smiled. You look calm. I said I am. He stepped inside. Victoria's under pressure. I looked at him. So I heard. He studied me. You don't seem surprised. I shrugged. Should I be? He hesitated. People are saying Marcus Lane is behind the attacks. I nodded. That name keeps coming up. Liam said quickly, it's corporate warfare. Nothing personal. I looked at him carefully. Nothing personal? He forced a laugh. You always take things too emotionally. I replied, not anymore. That made him stop smiling for a second. Then he said, good. That's better for you. I turned away. Is that why you're here? To give advice. He stepped closer. I'm here because Victoria needs support. I said, then go support her. He paused. You're still her husband. I laughed quietly. Legally maybe. Not emotionally. He frowned. You're really done, aren't you? I looked at him. I was done before you even noticed. Silence. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said softly, you're making a mistake walking away from this. I replied, the only mistake I made was staying too long. He didn't answer that. He just left. That night, Victoria came home later than usual. I was already in the hallway when she walked in. She stopped when she saw me. You're still awake? She asked. I said, couldn't sleep. She looked past me. Where's Liam? I replied, he left. She nodded slightly. Good. Then she walked toward her office. No emotion. No concern. Just movement. I stood there and whispered. Even now, nothing. Days passed again. The company news got worse. Another major investor exits Heart Corporation. I watched the screen silently. I said, it's accelerating. But Victoria didn't change. If anything, she became colder. More focused. More distant. She trusted Liam more than ever. I noticed it in small things. Late-night calls. Private meetings. Short conversations that ended the moment I entered the room. One evening, I asked her directly, do you even see what's happening around you? She didn't look up from her laptop. I'm handling it. I said, you're trusting Liam too much. That made her pause slightly. She finally looked at me. He's the only one actually helping me right now. I nodded slowly. If you say so. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I turned away. Nothing. But inside I knew. Liam wasn't helping her. He was feeding her into the collapse. But I didn't say it. It wasn't my fight anymore. A few nights later, I came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I went upstairs and saw Victoria's office light on. I pushed the door open slightly. She was inside. I didn't enter fully. I just watched. She looked exhausted. For a second. Just 1 second. Human. Then she noticed me. What are you doing? She asked. I stepped inside. I needed something. She closed her laptop. What? I didn't answer immediately. I walked to the closet and opened it. I took out a small bag. Started packing quietly. She watched me. What is that? She asked slowly. I didn't stop. Just a few things. She frowned. Why are you packing? I said, nothing important. She stepped closer. Ethan. I finally looked at her. I'm just preparing. For what? For leaving if I need to. Silence. For a moment, she didn't respond. Her eyes changed slightly. Confusion. Maybe something else. But it didn't stay. She said coldly, do what you want. I nodded. That's what I've been doing. I zipped the bag. She said nothing. Just watched. I stood up. Our eyes met. For a split second, I thought she might say something else. Something human. But she didn't. She just turned away. Don't make noise, she said. I have work tomorrow. That was it. No questions. No concern. No emotion. I looked at her for a moment longer. Then said quietly, even now you choose silence. She didn't respond. I walked past her, stopped at the door, and said one last thing. I guess this is what you always chose. Then I left the room. Behind me, she didn't call my name. Didn't stop me. Didn't ask why. And that was the moment I understood something final. Even at the edge of losing me, she still chose nothing. And I finally stopped expecting anything at all. It happened in a way I didn't expect. Quiet at first, then loud enough to shake everything. I was sitting in a small cafe when I saw it on the news screen. Breaking news. Hart Corporation internal scandal exposed. I froze. I whispered, what now? The anchor continued. CEO Victoria Hart's closest associate, Liam Brooks, has been linked to unauthorized data transfers. My grip tightened on the cup. I said slowly, so it's out. People around me kept talking, but I wasn't listening anymore. The screen showed documents, emails, transactions, Liam's name everywhere. Then another line appeared. Information allegedly passed to rival CEO Marcus Lang. I leaned back. So that's the chain, I muttered. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It buzzed again. Then again. I turned it off. Because I already knew. Back at the Hart residence, chaos was unfolding. I wasn't there. But I could imagine it. Victoria sitting in her office, trying to understand how everything collapsed so fast. And Liam gone. I said quietly to myself, you trusted the wrong person. That night, I went back home briefly. The house felt different. Empty in a louder way. I walked inside and heard footsteps upstairs. Victoria. I didn't call her. I just stood there. Then I heard her voice on a call. Find him. I want answers. Her tone wasn't calm anymore. It was broken. Sharp. Human. For the first time, I stayed still. Then I heard something else. Glass hitting the floor. Silence after that. I didn't move. I just listened. Her voice again, softer this time. Liam, why? That was it. No control left. I walked upstairs slowly. Stopped outside her office door. It was slightly open. I saw her inside. Sitting at her desk. Hands trembling. Phone on the table. Screens showing news updates. Her empire falling in real time. For the first time, she looked lost. Not powerful. Not Ice Queen. Just human. She whispered, this can't be happening. I stood there silently. She didn't see me. Then she spoke again, like talking to herself. Ethan. My name. But she didn't call louder. Just said it like a thought. I didn't respond. Because I already knew. She wasn't calling me. She was remembering me. I stepped back quietly, left the doorway, and went downstairs. Later that night, my phone rang again. Same unknown number. This time I answered. Silence first. Then her voice. Ethan. Victoria. I stayed quiet. She spoke again, faster now. I need to talk to you. I said calmly. About what? She hesitated. Then said, everything. I leaned against the wall. You have Liam for that. Silence. Her voice cracked slightly. He's gone. I replied, I know. Another pause. Then she said, did you know? I said honestly, I suspected. Her breathing changed. Why didn't you tell me? I answered simply, would you have listened? Silence again. Long this time. Then she whispered, I didn't see it. I closed my eyes. I know. Her voice dropped. Ethan, I don't understand how this happened. I said quietly. You trusted him more than anything. She didn't deny it. For the first time. No defense. No control. Just silence. Then she said something softer. I thought he was helping me. I replied, he was helping himself. Another pause. Then she asked, "Where are you?" I answered, "Not where I used to be." She said quickly, "Come home." I stayed quiet. That word home didn't mean anything anymore. I finally said, "I already left that place." Her voice changed again. "Emotionally or physically?" I said, "Both started a long time ago." Silence. Then I heard something I didn't expect. A shaky breath. Not anger. Not command. Just breaking. "Ethan," she whispered again. I said, "I don't have anything left to say." She went quiet. For a long time. Then she asked softly, "Did you ever stop loving me?" I answered honestly. "I stopped waiting for you to notice me." That was enough. No follow-up. No argument. Just silence on the line. Then she said something I will never forget. "I didn't realize I was losing you." I replied, "I know." Because that was the truth. She didn't realize until it was already gone. I stood up from the wall. "I have to go," I said. Her voice rushed slightly. "Wait." But I didn't. I ended the call. Phone turned dark. I stood there in silence. Then I whispered to myself, "That chapter is closed." The next morning, I didn't check the news. I didn't need to. I already knew what was happening. Victoria Hart's empire was collapsing. Liam Brooks was exposed completely. Marcus Lane had achieved what he wanted, and I was no longer inside any of it. I packed my last bag, looked around once. No memories felt heavy anymore. Just finished. I said quietly, "I'm not part of that world anymore." And I walked out. No calls. No turning back. No goodbye. Just silence behind me. And something new ahead I didn't fully understand yet. I stood at the edge of the city and watched everything I once called life fade behind me. No noise. No drama. Just distance. I whispered, "So this is what leaving feels like." A voice inside me answered nothing. Because there was nothing left to argue with anymore. My phone buzzed once. I didn't look. I already knew who it was. But I turned it off anyway. And for the first time, it felt permanent. I sat on a bench near the station. People walked past me, busy, unaware. I said quietly, "They don't know how loud silence can be." My bag was light. Too light for a life that used to feel heavy. I leaned back and closed my eyes. And I remembered everything. Not emotionally anymore, just clearly. Victoria's voice. Liam's smile. The house that never felt like mine. I opened my eyes again. "I'm done carrying all that," I said to myself. A train passed in the distance. I stood up. Time to move. But before I could step forward, my phone rang again. Unknown, but I knew. I answered. Silence first. Then her voice. "Ethan." "Victoria." I didn't respond immediately. She spoke again. "Where are you?" I said calmly. "Not where you can reach me easily." Silence. Then she said, "You left." I replied, "Yes." Her voice changed slightly. "You didn't even say goodbye." I looked at the road ahead. Goodbyes are for people who stay in each other's lives. She paused, then said, "So I don't deserve one?" I answered honestly. "You didn't ask for me to stay either." Silence again. Then she spoke softer. "I came to your home." I closed my eyes slightly. "I know." Her voice lowered. "It was empty." I said, "It always was, you just didn't notice." That hit silence harder than anything. She whispered, "Why didn't you tell me you were leaving?" I replied, "Would it have changed anything?" No answer. I continued. "I tried talking. I tried staying. I tried everything." She said quietly, "I didn't see it." I nodded slowly. "I know." Another pause. Then she asked, "Do you hate me?" I answered immediately, "No." That surprised even me. She hesitated. "Then why leave like this?" I looked at the sky. Because staying wasn't living. Silence again. Then she said something I didn't expect. "I don't know how to fix this." I replied, "You don't have to." Her voice cracked slightly. "So this is it." I said, "This is it." A long silence followed. Then she whispered, "Ethan." I stopped walking. But I didn't turn back. "Yes." Her voice was almost gone now. I didn't realize. I was losing you. I closed my eyes. "I know." Because she only realized when there was nothing left to hold. She asked one last time, "Is there anything I can do now?" I looked forward. For the first time, I didn't feel anger or pain, just clarity. I said softly, "Learn to see people while they're still there." Silence. No reply. Not even breathing on the line. Then I ended the call. I didn't wait. I didn't hesitate. I put the phone in my pocket and started walking, step by step, away from everything. Not running. Not escaping. Just moving forward. The wind felt lighter now, like it wasn't holding me back anymore. I whispered, "I stayed too long in a place I didn't belong." A bus passed beside me. I didn't stop it, because I wasn't going back anywhere. I found a small bridge outside the city. I stood there for a while, looking at the water below, and I said quietly, "This is where it ends." But it didn't feel like an ending anymore. It felt like space opening up. For the first time, I didn't feel owned by memory. I sat down again and thought about Victoria one last time. Not as a wife, not as Ice Queen CEO, just as a person I once tried to reach. I said softly, "I hope you understand one day." But I didn't wait for that day, because it wasn't mine to wait for anymore. I stood up again, took one final breath, and walked away from the bridge, from the city, from everything that used to define me. No one followed. No one called again. And I didn't look back, because I finally understood something simple. Sometimes love doesn't end with hate. It ends with silence. And sometimes, the strongest revenge is not hurting someone back. It's choosing yourself instead. I kept walking forward. And for the first time in my life, I felt free.